Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Trump has gone from promising a capitalist revival to being forced into communist policies in order to rescue what's left of his credibility. He's gone from promising that eggs will get cheaper to saying there will now be quotas on how many pencil an American needs. I'm not sure telling the most consumer of consumer markets in the world that they should accept rationing is the best way to frame things. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So let's be clear here. Donald Trump didn't win the election on a promise of trade wars or destroying the Constitution, even though he did promise to do both of those things during the election campaign. He won because he recognised that Americans were annoyed at the high inflation over the previous few years and promised to put it into full reverse. He was effectively promising negative inflation or deflation. Now, where is he? Inflation's powering up again. The plan to cut interest rates is probably going to reverse as well. And in order to justify his economic mismanagement on a scale not seen in America for 100 years, he's left trotting out some of the old communist lines, presumably learned during his visits to the Soviet Union before it collapsed. He said that kids don't need as many dolls and pencils, the implication being that if these things become more expensive, just buy fewer of them because you're currently buying more than you need. And that may be true. But what Trump is saying here is that people will still spend as much on dolls and pencils, as well as many other goods. They just won't get as much for their money, but that they should be happy because they had too much anyway. I'm not sure this is a great argument for the ultimate consumer-led society, particularly for a Republican. You're basically saying what the public should and should not be allowed to buy. Now, you may think, well, Phil, you're all about standards. You're all about the government telling people what they can and can't buy. It says, yeah, I'm not a raging capitalist, am I? I'm absolutely fine with the government applying standards and saying, no, that food's poisonous, you can't have it. Or that product might explode, you shouldn't buy it. Not so sure about the rationing, though. I'm not so keen on the rationing idea. And things are going to get way more expensive. That's what's happening here. Trump is saying, yeah, things are going to get way more expensive. But the good news is that you are buying too much anyway. So what Trump is effectively doing is, like the communist Russia of the past, telling people what they need and how much of it they need. You only need $3 and 5 pencils, he said. But of course, it's not just pencils and dolls increasing in price, is it? What about food? Of course, Trump is not being interviewed by people who will be properly critical of him and ask these questions. But what about food? How many eggs do people need? I mean, anyone who voted for the Oompa Loompa of vengeance based on the cost of eggs or gas was obviously someone who had to be careful with their household budgets. I don't think these are the sort of people who were buying more essentials than they needed. Otherwise, they'd have used their vote on some other issue, right? If you're rich enough to absorb the Trump inflation, you weren't fretting over the cost of eggs under Biden. How are those people going to take being told when they complain that food is more expensive, that they've been used to buying too much? Look, you don't need a whole egg. Boil it, cut it in half and spread it over 2 meals. Maybe they need to hire our Lee Anderson to give Americans some food budgeting advice. See, when he was trying to defend the inflation in Britain, he advised that you don't need to spend more than 30 pence a meal. That's 40 cents in today's conversion. Will Trump need a new government department? See, they've got DOGE, haven't they? The Department of Government Efficiency, to tackle what they call federal budget waste, but which is in reality an effort to sack anyone who could investigate fraud committed by Trump or his associates. Will they need a new department? Could call it DOPE, Department of Public Efficiency, headed by Hulk Hogan, goes around telling you you're buying too many groceries. The shelves are bare, not because we've crashed the economy, because you're greedy, wanting a whole egg for breakfast just for one person. Are you mad? Mind you, there should be plenty of beef and soybeans to go around now that China's not buying them. I'm not sure the American farmers affected will think that the prices they can charge will be worth the effort, though. But isn't it interesting how the right wing always swing left in times of trouble? Like, what did we get during COVID? Massive state intervention. What is Trump doing now? Massive state intervention. The right wing are supposed to be about small state. Let the market decide. Trump's government are telling universities which students they can and can't have on their campus, what to teach them. They're telling the media what they can and can't report on. They're telling lawyers which cases they can and can't take. Now they're telling Americans how many pencils they can have. Won't be long before Trump commissions a gold bust of Joseph Stalin for the Oval Office and has done with it. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.